This is also a time of change for my family.
King Charles has officially broken his silence immediately after Princess Catherine confronted him face to face, unleashing ironclad evidence that exposes Queen Camilla's ruthless betrayal. This exclusive news is sending shockwaves through global public opinion as the darkest, filthiest corner of the British royal court is dragged into the light. At the heart of this breathtaking war for the crown is a raw, blood-soaked internal memo written in Camilla's own hand, with a ruthless directive: establish the absence before returning. Taking advantage of her daughter-in-law being incapacitated on her sickbed, Camilla conspired with a media advisor to turn Catherine's confidential health records into a filthy weapon, vilifying her before the American and British public in an attempt to monopolize the spotlight and strip away all of her long-term patronages. Now, with the mask of deceit completely shattered, after a head-on confrontation, what devastating punishment will King Charles inflict upon the wife who shared his bed to protect the future of the monarchy? Will Camilla face public humiliation amid a wave of public outrage, and what finishing blow will Catherine deliver to back the culprit into a corner? The atmosphere inside King Charles's study at Buckingham Palace was thick with tension. Not a single bird chirped outside the window. No warm sunlight pierced through the heavy velvet curtains. There was only a terrifying silence, the kind of silence that portends a furious storm capable of drowning the monarchy in a mire of disgrace. Princess Catherine stood there, her face still bearing a trace of paleness after her long battle with a severe illness. Her frame was thinner than before, but her eyes blazed with a cold, resolute light never seen before. Opposite her, King Charles sat back in his leather armchair, his aged hands tightly interlaced and trembling. Beside the King-Queen, Camilla tried to maintain a forced, polite smile, but her fingers clutching her silk handkerchief betrayed the extreme anxiety in her heart. Catherine offered no polite introductory words. She slowly raised her hand, placing a cream-colored piece of paper stamped with a gilded royal crest onto the polished mahogany table. The corner of the paper was slightly crumpled, as if it had just been torn from a secret notebook. On its surface, lines of handwritten text in blue-black ink appeared scrawled yet sharp-ending, with an unmistakable swirling signature belonging to Queen Camilla. The king narrowed his eyes at the paper. As the words hit his eyes, the monarch's complexion instantly turned from astonishment to deathly pale. The text clearly read, "Establish the absence before returning." Right below it was a series of detailed directives sent to Julian Mercer, the palace's cunning media advisor, ordering the leak of Catherine's entire confidential medical recovery schedule to the most notorious tabloids in the US and the UK. Would you care to reread what you wrote yourself? Your Majesty. Catherine's voice rang out, not raised, yet every single word cut through the space like an icy blade. She looked straight into Camilla's eyes, without a shred of hesitation, without a shred of the deference expected from a subordinate. Camilla's face instantly dropped the smile, vanishing from her lips. She lunged forward to snatch the paper, but Prince William, who had been standing silently like a stone statue behind his wife, was a step ahead. He slammed his large, firm hand down on the paper, blocking his stepmother's attempt to destroy the evidence. William's gaze at Camilla at that moment was no different from that of a judge looking down upon the lowest sinner. The crime was exposed, filthy and naked. For weeks, the global public had been bombarded with malicious articles vilifying Catherine as sickly and mentally broken, no longer fit to bear the responsibilities of a future queen consort. Confidential details about her days in the hospital, the dosages of medicine she had to take, and even her most vulnerable moments were splashed across the covers of sensationalist magazines in America. As it turned out, the puppet master pulling the strings behind this entire ruthless drama was the very woman sitting right here, the one who was supposed to protect her. Camilla had turned her daughter-in-law's grave illness into a dirty weapon, to drag her into the mud, aiming to push herself to the center of attention and monopolize the media spotlight while the king was also ill.
This is an outright slander. Camilla reacted instantly, her voice trembling, but still trying to sound fierce. I have no idea where this paper came from. Someone has forged my signature to divide this family. Charles, you must believe me. I would never do such a despicable thing to Catherine. Forged! William spoke up his voice, dropping low-laden with an anger that had been suppressed for a very long time. This handwriting, this ink in that Julian Mercer fellow. Do you think we are 3-year-old children? Your crimes have left tracks everywhere, and this piece of paper is the verdict for your lies.
King Charles did not say a word. He closed his eyes tightly, his breathing heavy. Betrayal under his very own roof, among his own flesh and blood, was too heavy a blow to his already frail health. This internal memo was no ordinary piece of paper. It was the detonator for a life-or-death battle, placing the core issue of the entire story on the scale the honor of a recovering mother against the malicious envy of a greedy queen consort. Camilla did not stop trying to exonerate herself. She turned to grasp the king's hand, attempting to use fake tears to gloss over her actions. But Catherine just stood and watched in silence, pure disdain evident in her eyes. She knew that this paper was only the first shot, and she was ready to strip away the entire dark truth that Camilla had painstakingly hidden for so long. The confrontation in the king's study swiftly drove the conflict to its climax. No longer whispers behind closed doors, no longer anonymous articles. Now the battle lines were clearly drawn between two factions, the House of Wales, determined to protect their honor to the absolute end, and Queen Camilla alongside her filthy media henchmen. To understand the root cause of this despicable crime, the timeline must step back a few weeks to a lavish gala hosted inside Windsor Castle. That night, the castle's grand hall overflowed with sparkling chandeliers, melodious classical music, and the presence of hundreds of aristocratic guests, including major donors from America. It was a perfect night until Prince William stepped onto the podium. Before all the guests, William delivered a deeply moving speech. He spoke not only of charitable projects, but also dedicated his most respectful words to his absent wife. He proudly announced that Catherine was recovering very well and would soon make her reappearance at an upcoming national celebration. William concluded with a statement that warmed everyone's hearts. Catherine is not just my wife. She is the emotional future of this monarchy. A resounding non-stop round of applause erupted from the guests. They praised her. They looked forward to her return. But in the corner of the room, standing beneath the shadow of an ancient relief, Queen Camilla was clutching her wine glass so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Envy, like a poisonous flame, flared up and scorched her soul. The phrase, "the emotional future of this monarchy," was like a direct slap to Camilla's face. She realized that no matter how many times she tried to appear before the media, no matter how many magnificent jewels she draped over herself in the eyes of the public, she would forever remain a faded shadow, a hated latecomer, while Catherine was the true star. An invisible fear, the fear of being marginalized once King Charles was no longer around, made Camilla lose her last shred of reason. She immediately turned her back and quietly left the bustling party. Her footsteps hurried along the quiet, dark corridors of Windsor Castle, heading toward the small passageway leading to the media advisors' area. Camilla stopped at a dimly lit corner of the corridor. She pulled out her phone and called Julian Mercer, her loyal henchman, who handled her dirty work in the media. Camilla's voice whispered through the phone, ice cold and scheming. "We cannot let that girl make such a glorious return. She must be seen as weak and incompetent who cannot handle the pressure. You know what to do." Right on an antique wooden table in the Windsor corridor, Camilla snatched an internal notepad. With hands trembling from anger and jealousy, she put pen to paper and wrote the ruthless secret orders, mapping out the plan to leak Catherine's medical records and establishing a clear timeline for the U.S. media to attack the Princess of Wales's psyche. She signed her name at the bottom of the page, a signature representing absolute control within the royal court. However, Camilla had no idea that the darkness of the Windsor corridor that night did not completely conceal her crime. Princess Sophie, who had left the party early to find a quiet space, was standing tucked away behind a thick velvet curtain not far away. Sophie had witnessed the entire scene. She saw Camilla's face distorted with hatred under the dim wall light. She heard her malicious whispers to Julian Mercer over the phone. And she saw the moment Camilla penned her signature on that fateful piece of paper. Sophie stood frozen, without breathing, her heart racing with horror. She knew she had just witnessed a terrible crime, a ruthless betrayal that would trigger a royal tsunami. She quietly memorized every detail, every word, waiting for the right moment to bring the truth to light. After Camilla left, Sophie slowly stepped out from her hiding place. She watched the Queen's silhouette disappear down the end of the corridor, a deep sense of injustice rising in her heart. Sophie had always been fond of Catherine and understood the horrific pressure the princess faced while simultaneously battling illness and raising 3 children. Camilla's actions were not just selfish competition. They were an immoral stab in the back, trampling on family bonds. Sophie decided not to stay silent. She knew she couldn't act rashly, as Camilla was a cunning old fox with great influence over the king. She needed to find a way to approach the Waleses in the most secure manner, providing them with this information so they could prepare. It was Sophie's choice to stand on the side of justice that night that laid the very first bricks for the trap that would later overthrow Camilla. Meanwhile, Camilla returned to the party with a nonchalant face, as if nothing had happened. She raised her glass to toast the guests, flashing an elegant smile for the camera lenses. In her mind, at that moment, was the vision of Catherine besieged by the media with rude questions about her mental competence and the future crown of the Waleses shaking violently. Camilla smugly thought she was a step ahead, completely unaware that the net of justice had already begun to close around her. Returning to reality inside Buckingham Palace, the silence following Camilla's denial grew even more suffocating. Catherine did not bother arguing with her stepmother's groundless fabrications. She knew exactly who her enemy was and how despicable she could be. Instead of weeping or playing the victim, Catherine chose to launch her first counterattack, a direct strike delivered with the authority of a mother protecting her family. Catherine took a step forward, directly facing King Charles. She looked at the man sitting on the throne who was enduring both physical and emotional pain. Her voice rang out as resolute as a bronze bell. "Father, I respect you as the head of this family, but I cannot tolerate a predator living under the same roof as my children. The media's lies are hurting George, Charlotte, and Louis every single day when they go to school." Standing by her side, William backed his wife's words with a harshness that bordered on ruthless. "If this woman appears in any joint plans of the House of Wales, if she is permitted to sit at the same table with us at royal events, we will withdraw completely. There will be no more happy family images. We will shut down Kensington Palace and sever all public ties." This ultimatum struck Buckingham Palace like a bolt of lightning. King Charles fully understood the weight of that threat. The House of Wales was all that remained to hold the public's loyalty at this moment. If William and Catherine withdrew, this monarchy would instantly collapse under the weight of public condemnation. Their steadfastness left the king with no other choice. He was forced to make a decision between a deceitful wife and the survival of the entire royal lineage. King Charles slowly raised his head, his gaze toward Camilla, stripped of any remaining affection, leaving only deep disappointment and disgust. He spoke, his voice raspy, yet carrying the supreme authority of the head of the clan. "From this moment on,
Camilla, you are suspended from all family strategic agendas. You are not permitted to participate in any meetings regarding the future of the House of Wales. Leave my study immediately."
Camilla gasped, her face turning as gray as ashes. She had never expected Charles to strike her so ruthlessly in front of his daughter-in-law. She opened her mouth to beg, but the king's icy glare cut off all words. Humiliated, Camilla turned her back and stumbled out of the room, her smugness as a queen consort now transformed into wretched embarrassment. But Catherine knew that suspending Camilla was only the tip of the iceberg. The advisor Julian Mercer still held a vast amount of confidential information, and their filthy media pipeline had not yet been completely uprooted. She turned to look at William, a silent nod of understanding passing between the couple. They could not stop here. A real manhunt, an underground security investigation campaign, had to be triggered immediately to strip bare the villain's entire network. The Waleses quickly left the king's study, leaving King Charles alone in the empty room. Catherine's decisiveness proved she was no longer the gentle, enduring princess of years past. Illness and betrayal had forged her into a true warrior, ready to use the fiercest measures to protect those she loved. As soon as they returned to Kensington Palace, William called the head of his close security detail. This battle could not be resolved with hollow promises. They needed irrefutable evidence, concrete physical proof, to completely strip Camilla of her claws, ensuring she would never have the chance to rear her head again. Meanwhile, Camilla rushed back to her private quarters, smashing the decorations on her dressing table in a fit of rage. She refused to accept this defeat. She immediately called Julian Mercer, ordering him to accelerate the pace and launch even more devastating media strikes against Catherine. Camilla believed that pressure from the American public and major newspapers would force Charles to change his mind and bring the Waleses to their knees in apology. She had no idea that her henchmen had already fallen into the crosshairs of a ruthless manhunt. The hunt entered its decisive phase when William's close security team launched a raid on Julian Mercer's office in a hidden corner of Buckingham Palace. Making no loud noise, they swiftly locked the doors, completely isolating the cunning advisor, who was smugly tracking the articles vilifying Catherine in the American press. Inside the safe, hidden behind an ancient portrait painting, the security team discovered an encrypted black hard drive. This was the next piece of physical evidence to come to light. When the data was decrypted before William's eyes, a horrifying plot twist was exposed, shaking the entire room. Camilla's crime did not stop at smearing her daughter-in-law's honor to satisfy a fleeting jealousy. The confidential files proved a far more ruthless ambition. While Catherine was confined to her sickbed, fighting for her life, Camilla had already drafted announcements to permanently strip away the long-term patronages and charitable projects tied to Catherine's name for the past 10 years, intending to transfer them to her own confidants. William stared at the malicious drafts appearing on the screen, his chest heaving with fury at the silent plunder targeted at his defenseless wife. He instantly yanked out the hard drive, gripping it tightly in his hand like an ultimate weapon to completely extinguish Camilla's presence in the royal palace. Julian Mercer collapsed, the color draining from his face as he realized his filthy network had been completely captured, setting the stage for the face-to-face confrontation trap the following day. The thick oak doors of the Grand Council chamber at Buckingham Palace closed, bolted from the outside with a sturdy manual locking mechanism. No servants were permitted to walk the outer corridors. Inside the vast room, the long mahogany table reflected the cold light from the row of wall sconces. 4 people sat opposite each other in a life-or-death battle with no escape: King Charles, Queen Camilla, Prince William, and Princess Catherine. The atmosphere was thick with hostility so suffocating that Camilla's heavy and rapid breathing could be clearly heard. Catherine was in no hurry. With the terrifying composure of someone who held a guaranteed victory, She slowly pushed the black hard drive and the newly printed stack of drafted plans to seize the patronages toward the center of the table. The file sat prominently right next to the initial piece of paper, bearing the blood-soaked memo, forming an ironclad, undeniable body of evidence. "You prepared very thoroughly for my absence, didn't you? Your Majesty." Catherine spoke up, her gaze as cold as two nails, pinning Camilla to her velvet armchair. "You didn't just want me to vanish from the American media. You wanted to completely erase my existence from this monarchy while I was lying on my sickbed fighting for my life. Did you want my children to see their mother pushed aside like discarded waste?" Upon seeing the hard drive and the stack of drafts, Camilla's face instantly turned from purple to ashen gray. Her chest heaved. She bolted upright, pushing her chair back quite a distance. "This is a filthy setup. Someone hacked into my system to frame me. Charles, you must believe me. The Wales faction is using these despicable tactics to overthrow me. They want to kick me out of this palace." Camilla wailed, her voice shifting from trembling to a desperate screech, trying to cling to the last shred of her husband's trust. "Do you still deny your guilt, Camilla?" William slammed his palm hard against the wooden table, a decisive action that made Camilla jump and instantly fall silent. "Do you think Julian Mercer will take the fall for you? Or do you think nobody in this palace saw your disgusting deeds?" Right then, a side door of the room slowly opened. Princess Sophie stepped out from the shadows, her face showing clear determination and indignation. She walked over to stand right beside Catherine, looking directly at the woman who was trying her hardest to deny her crime with an unblinking, fearless gaze. "You don't need to blame anyone, Your Majesty." Sophie spoke, her voice clear and articulate, echoing directly into Camilla's mind. "My own eyes saw you standing in the Windsor Castle corridor that night. My own ears heard you calling Julian Mercer to order the leak of Catherine's confidential medical schedule. And I saw you put pen to paper to sign this memo with the words, 'Establish the absence before returning.' Would you like me to repeat the exact time you stood hiding there?" Sophie's testimony was like a finishing blow struck straight at Camilla, shattering any illusion of an escape. Every mask of deceit fell completely before the king. Camilla looked around the room, but no one stood on her side. William looked at her with ultimate wrath. Catherine looked at her with absolute disdain. Sophie looked at her with deep disappointment. And King Charles, he turned his face away, refusing to grant the woman beside him even a single glance. The battle was over, and Camilla knew she was completely empty-handed in this confrontation. She no longer had the strength to wail or deny her guilt. Her legs gave out, and Camilla collapsed onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands and beginning to weep bitterly. Humiliated tears fell, accompanied by the despicable confession she had hidden for many years beneath the title of Queen Consort. "I was afraid. I was just afraid I would become invisible. After all these years, I had to fight to endure the world's hatred just to stand in this position. You all always viewed me as a replacement. I just wanted to be recognized. I didn't want to be marginalized when that girl made a glorious return." Camilla choked out her confession. Her envy and greed had turned her into a ruthless predator. But now, she was nothing more than a pitiful, defeated soul. Catherine looked at the weeping woman before her, her face unmoving. She condemned her resolutely. "You wanted recognition by using your daughter-in-law's illness as a political weapon. Your selfishness has trampled on this family's honor, and it has caused indelible hurt to my children. You deserve no clemency whatsoever." King Charles's fury following his wife's confession erupted beyond control. He could not believe the woman he had risked everything to protect his entire life could act so basely, using his own daughter-in-law's frailty as a tool for an internal purge. Without needing any discussion or review, the king immediately delivered justice with his own hands to salvage the honor of the monarchy. Charles pressed hard on the bronze bell on the table, summoning the royal guard. Just seconds later, 3 guardsmen burst into the room. The king pointed toward Julian Mercer, the advisor standing trembling in a corner of the room, his face completely drained of color. Cast this man out of Buckingham Palace, immediately revoke all his access rights, throw all his belongings out of the palace gates in front of all the staff. From this day forward, he is forbidden from setting foot inside any royal residence. Despite Mercer's desperate pleas, the guards grabbed his arms tightly and dragged him down the long corridors of the palace. All the servants, chefs, and palace staff stepped aside, witnessing the spectacle of the once powerful media advisor being dragged away like a criminal stripped of all honor in utter public humiliation before the entire palace. Turning back to the room, King Charles produced a special handwritten royal decree. He put pen to paper and signed his name with cold decisiveness, completely dismantling Camilla's faction. The decree declared, Queen Camilla is officially removed from the distribution list for all national and family confidential documents. She is entirely stripped of access to any health information of royal family members, as well as all future succession plans of the House of Wales. After Camilla was escorted back to her private quarters in ignominy, Catherine requested a private audience with the king in the garden room, a place with large glass windows overlooking the lush green lawn, completely secluded from the chaos outside. This was the moment of a true future leader, one who knew not only how to take revenge, but also how to maintain absolute control through strategic wit. "Father," Catherine said, as she stood across from the king by a small round table, "we cannot let this deceit continue to threaten the family's future. I am not asking you to take her to court or subject her to public humiliation before the global media, because that would damage the crown you wear." The king looked up at his daughter-in-law, somewhat relieved by her thoughtfulness. But Catherine continued, her voice shifting to the coldness of someone who held the power of life and death. "But I demand the creation of an official family dossier. The entire memo with Camilla's handwriting, the hard drive containing the drafted patronage seizures, and Sophie's signed testimony will be sealed into this dossier. It will be kept permanently under my exclusive control at Kensington Palace. This will be irrefutable proof of her wrongdoing, ensuring that from this day forward, she can never harm my family again." King Charles nodded in agreement. He understood that this was an indefinite suspended sentence Catherine had handed to Camilla. The stepmother would have to live the rest of her life under the shadow of this dossier, knowing that with just one minor misstep, Catherine could reopen it and utterly destroy the little honor she had left. Justice had been executed ruthlessly, yet perfectly, leaving no room for compromise or reconciliation. Immediately following this, Buckingham Palace issued an official communiqué to the global media. The statement did not use dry administrative jargon, but struck directly at the truth. The palace acknowledged that a severe breach of trust had occurred regarding the leak of confidential medical information of the Princess of Wales from within the royal court, and those responsible had been thoroughly purged. Although the statement did not explicitly name Camilla, the entire public across America, Britain, and the world implicitly understood who the culprit behind the drama was. A wave of fury directed at Camilla exploded across social media platforms and international news outlets, while empathy and support for Catherine surged to an unprecedented level in history. At Kensington Palace, tens of thousands of citizens, along with hundreds of reporters from America's largest television networks, swarmed the square in front of the palace. They brought flowers, banners bearing Catherine's image, and endless cheers that echoed across the sky as they awaited her appearance. When Catherine stepped out onto the balcony, dressed in an elegant outfit, the entire square erupted into a thunderous round of applause. Her proud public appearance was the most resolute answer to Camilla's filthy smearing plots. The dispute officially drew to a close in a final 4-person meeting in the king's study the following morning. The room was completely quiet. The faint light filtering through the window frame was not enough to warm the cold indoor air. Camilla entered the room with a haggard appearance, her face stripped of heavy makeup, no longer donned in her usual magnificent gowns. She stood before Catherine, her trembling hands offering a small black velvet box. Inside the box was the golden key to the declassification of Wales information, the very item Camilla had once used her royal court power to seize in order to control and manipulate all information regarding her daughter-in-law and son-in-law's lives. Having to personally hand back this key was the ultimate humiliation, marking the Queen Consort's total downfall before the Princess of Wales. "I voluntarily return this key to you, Catherine." Camilla bowed her head, her voice significantly lowered, carrying an embarrassing humiliation she could not hide. "I accept blame for all my actions. There are no excuses."
Catherine slowly received the golden key from Camilla's hand, her fingers tightening around the powerful object. She uttered no insults, nor was there a triumphant smile on her lips. Her silence and her majestic gaze were the most devastating mental punishment for the defeated foe. Camilla knew that from this moment on, she was completely dead in terms of title and power within this monarchy. King Charles looked at his wife, then turned to William and Catherine with eyes heavy with remorse. He let out a bitter sigh, blaming himself in front of his children. "All of this happened. A large part of it is my fault. I used my silence in the past to avoid holding her accountable, letting her think she could do whatever she wanted in the name of love. I apologize to you both for letting this envy hurt Catherine." The king's self-reproach was the final confirmation of the House of Wales's absolute victory. The indulgence of the past had been paid for with the irreparable rift of the present. Catherine stood tall. She had received not only the key, but also the complete submission of the heads of the monarchy. She marched forward steadfastly as the sole future strength, the only unshakable pillar of the British crown in the eyes of the global public. The confrontation officially concluded with a devastating and clear closed ending for each character. Julian Mercer was ignominiously expelled, his reputation ruined, and became the most hated figure in the media industry. Queen Camilla faced the consequence of permanent isolation. She was confined to her dark quarters at Buckingham Palace, turned away by her husband, shunned by William's children, and loathed by the global public whenever her name was mentioned. Conversely, Princess Catherine stepped out into the brilliant sunshine of Kensington Palace, welcoming the applause and absolute respect from millions of citizens turning toward her. The family dossier, tightly sealed in her safe at Kensington, would forever remain a steely reminder. Anyone who dared use deceit to attack her family would suffer a wretched end at the hands of the woman holding the future of the monarchy. Is this brilliant victory of Princess Catherine truly secure, or will the family dossier sealed at Kensington become a ticking time bomb ready to trigger a new crisis if Camilla finds an ally from outside the royal palace? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.